Welcome back to Tip of the Iceberg, the international podcast where we investigate the value of dreams from the public's perspective. Today, I have a very special guest who actually contacted me through my podcast and got a hold of me through my website, wakingdreamproductions.ca. And his name is Rodney Jones. He's a jazz guitarist who's been on the scene for over 50 years. He's also a teacher who works through the New York Juilliard School. And I'll just read a little bit about his bio here. Rodney Jones is a performer, recording artist, and educator who started playing guitar at age 6. He has played jazz guitar with Dizzy Gillespie for 3 years, Lena Horne for over 20 years, as guitarist and musical director, and also with Ruth Brown as guitarist and musical director. Jones has worked in television extensively, including The Rosie O'Donnell Show, The Cosby Show, Showtime at the Apollo, the Rhythm and Blues Foundation, and The Apprentice. As a band leader, Jones has recorded albums for Blue Note Records, Verve, High Note, and others. He has contributed on recordings with Dizzy Gillespie, Kenny Burrell, Carl Allen, Billy Joel, Dave Koz, Ray Charles, Messiah Parker, and James Brown. Rodney studied at City College of New York with pianist John Lewis, founder of the Modern Jazz Quartet, and with guitar legend Bruce Johnson. He has been on the faculty of the Juilliard School since 2007. He teaches master classes at Eastman School, Berklee College, and others, and gives lectures worldwide. He is cited as a jazz guitarist who uses modern quartal harmony. Rodney plays the Bambino Deluxe model that can be found on the Benedetto Guitars website at BENEDETTO guitars.com. As the owner of Benedetto Guitars, Howard Paul, has described him, he says, Rodney's a musician who occupies a unique place in the jazz guitar world of today, kind of a Zen master of the current active A-list players. End of quote. Anyway, my interview with Rodney is coming up, and I'm so glad you'll be hearing it. It's quite special. And this episode is called Beautiful Dreamer, because when I did the recording, I just kept saying, wow, that's beautiful. Anyway, enjoy. We'll talk to you after. So, welcome to Tip of the Iceberg, Rodney Jones. So great to have you here, man.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, Michael. I'm on the tip of the iceberg with you.
Yeah, right. Your history in music is profound. Wow, you have such a deep history in jazz and music. When did the jazz bug catch you? I know it's like the high art of music in a way, and it's based, and there's so much improvisation that happens in that world too. It's a beautiful medium. When did you fall into that?
I I like the term "fall into it."
Yeah, I don't know.
It's appropriate.
Yeah.
I fell into that about the age of 15 when I heard some stuff played by a guitarist named Barney Kessel, and at that time I was into Jimi Hendrix and Johnny Winter and
Yeah.
that type of thing, Alvin Lee, and I heard this guitar and I was like, oh, that sounds really great. And when I got home, I tried to play it on my guitar, and no bueno. No,
Wow.
nothing was happening, and so
Really?
that began my quest, to discover more about that. I loved that it was improvised. I loved that it was in the moment, and I loved that it was music that, not only told a story, but sometimes created a mood. Sometimes opened a doorway. It was like dreaming in sound. So,
Yeah,
you know.
beautiful. You work with so many high-end artists, like some of the jazz greats, Quincy Jones, Stan Getz, Dizzy Gillespie, incredible. And that was through your late, early 20s, or what was that, your age?
I joined Dizzy's band when I was just turning 19. He was a guest at the
Wow.
college that I was at, and he asked me to join his band. I asked the band director, who said, under no circumstance should you join Dizzy Gillespie's band, knowing what it's like being on the road with jazz. And I asked my
Yeah.
father, who's a Christian minister for 60 years, and I said, Dad, Dizzy asked me to join his band. He said, under no circumstances should you join Dizzy Gillespie's band. And I sat on my couch, actually on my bed in my room, and I thought to myself this thought as one coherent thought. I said, What I learned more about jazz from people that teach it or the guy that invented it.
Wow,
And
totally.
that was, I went on the road with Dizzy Gillespie for 3 years, and it was a transformative and, really,
What a gift, eh?
yeah, it was
It's
a
like,
gift, transformative and a gift. And, I learned a lot, and I got a lot of invaluable experience, and I got to meet all the legends of the music because everyone loved Dizzy. And so
yeah,
it was one of those life altering moments, that really made a difference.
yeah. My dad loved Dizzy Gillespie. He was a big jazz fan, and Brian Brown I like too. I have some of his old jazz records. Great stuff. So did growing up in that household were dreams sort of talked about? Did you share them at the table or?
Somewhat. I mean, my earliest uh, recollection of having any discussion of dreams within my family was I had a series of recurring dreams when I was maybe 6 years old. I was living in Nashville, Tennessee at the time, and I had this recurring dream of being on the side of a mountain and, you know, seeing various people on the mountain do what they're doing. And I asked my father, I said, Dad, I had this dream often about being on the mountainside. And, my father, being the wise and loving man that he was, he said, Well, how do you feel when you're there?
Oh,
And I said, Well, I
nice.
feel great. And he said, Well, then it's okay. And that
Yeah.
was the first time I was given permission to accept dreams as being something. Later, I was able to return that favor to him because late in life, a few years before he died, we were talking about dreams, and I said, Dad, do you believe that when him being a man of deep faith, I said, do you believe that God goes to sleep when you go to sleep? He said, No, God is God all the time. I
Yeah.
said, Well, do you believe that God could be awake when you're dreaming? And he said, I never thought of that.
Yeah, for
I said,
sure.
Yeah, why it is only God speaking when you're awake?
Yeah.
God's not limited to your sleep time. How about that? And he said, You know what? I
Yeah.
see it. And in the last couple years of his life, he began to embrace dreams.
Beautiful. Wonderful. And he was a Christian minister, right?
Yeah, for 60 years. Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say would be the greatest thing that dreams has given you in your life?
Dreams has given me, it has given me my life. It has
Wow.
given me the context to experience this journey that we all take as being alive. But in my personal life, as an individual, it really has been a bridge between many of my life's most profound experiences, between the music that I love, which is my passion and my purpose,
Yeah.
between grief I've experienced, having lost a grandchild and having lost, my parents
Wow.
and my sister and friends. Uh, the idea of exploring uh, creatively the inner landscape and manifesting that outwardly into sound and the music has been profoundly beautiful. And then the idea of dreams being a doorway into not just imagery, but into actual understanding, to learn more about what it is to be alive, to be a human being, and the role that they can play in understanding my journey as a parent, as a father, as a musician, as a neighbor. It's
Yeah.
been invaluable for that.
We, for me, dreams have given me freedom. I remember as a little kid, I was able to come and go from my dreams and control them. I still get a bit of it, like lucid dreaming, but in those days, I would, whenever I had a fearful dream, I would lie down and say, "I'm, I'm gonna wake up. I'm gonna wake up," and it was kind of like Dorothy and "Go home, go home."
Yeah.
Uh, no place like home. And I would wake up immediately in my bed, and it was like this. But I also would think, wow, if I died, I don't see why that world would be any different than my dream state.
Yeah.
Like it was so real. It was
How
so
old were you
fun.
when you were thinking that?
I guess six or
That's
seven, really
you,
young,
you're
right?
you're a
Eh,
deep guy, Michael.
Yeah. And so I just loved the freedom I had with it because I could create things, I could change the experience in the dream. But I really thought that if I died, it wouldn't be any different than that. But I might get pop and chips every night because that was my thing I loved the most when I was a kid.
For me, dreams really offered and offer a type of spiritual continuity, evidence that life and love and creativity and guidance continue beyond the limits of the waking mind.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that there's this other part of life, since I'm going to spend a big part of my life asleep, is it just a throwaway,
Yeah,
or does it have something that can be of value, something that offers something? And I have found that it does.
yeah, for sure. Um, with regards to your music and that, have you ever had a dream related and brought that into your life, composition or so on and so forth, creative field?
Yeah, have I ever? Have I ever not? You know,
Totally.
it's
And
kind of that.
daydreaming is just that too, right? You're in
Exactly,
a delta state. You're in a
exactly,
relaxed state where you can channel basically. But
exactly.
yeah, but the actual night dreams, anything particular
Yeah,
stories?
yeah. I mean, I've had dreams of music sounds, songs that
Yeah,
I've been able to to get up and record. There was one experience that happened some years ago, maybe 10 years ago, where I had this profoundly beautiful, almost symphonic sort of thing that could only be played on a keyboard. And I'm a very poor keyboard player. But
yeah.
I remembered getting up at night and doing something at my computer. I remembered that. When I woke up the next morning, it seemed like did that happen? Like I remember there was something going. I couldn't really remember the dream, but I remembered something happened. I remember getting up and I went and
You literally got up, or you
I
dreamt you got up.
literally got up.
Yeah,
But
and then you're
only had the
wondering
mem
if,
when I woke up, I was like, did I dream I got up or did I actually get
yeah,
up? When I looked at my computer, there was a file.
wow,
And evidently I had gone and in on the keyboard played these string parts and oboe parts and French horns and
wow,
way beyond my ability to play. Like literally when I
wow,
tried to play it awake, I couldn't play it.
crazy.
Isn't that
That's
amazing?
amazing. Yeah.
I never released that. I should
That's
do.
like Dali, holding the silver spoon in an armchair, drifting into a nap in the afternoon, hoping to get. And as soon as the spoon drops, he wakens and he writes or draws whatever came through in that delta state, I guess it's called.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
also known as hypnagogia, which is that state between waking and sleeping, where he was intentionally trying to harness that, which is
Yeah.
pretty cool. Thomas Edison did that too, they said.
Sounds
With
like
it.
you're auditioning for a job at Juilliard. Now I'll hire you too.
Yeah, was that right?
Hired.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what I'd be teaching. Dream music. Yeah. How long have you been teaching? You've been teaching quite a while, eh?
I have. I realized early in my life that I was a teacher who could play, not a player who could teach.
Oh, nice.
And that's a different thing. Both of my parents were teachers, and so I always self-identified as a teacher, and I understood the value of teaching because my father was a master teacher, and I
Yeah.
saw what it did and the way he helped his students. So I knew I was going to do that from early on. And the first guitar teacher I ever had, a gentleman named Bruce Johnson, was wise in what he told me. He said, "Listen, when you learn anything, while you're learning it, ask yourself, if I was going to teach this, how would I teach it?"
Oh, nice.
And so what that meant is that when it was time to actually teach in academia or privately, I had years of being able to explain what it is that I had done, what my process was, how I learned the things I learned, the I had the tips and the tools and the techniques to share, not just the information, but the way I arrived at the information. That became invaluable for my students.
Beautiful. Is there something about the dream state that music can capture more than words or visuals?
Uh, well, yeah, I think that music, as I said earlier, can paint a picture, can create a mood. It can uh, it can be something a means of transport. Where a person has their own
Yeah,
experience
totally.
in the music.
And it has such a
Um,
history of back experiences when you hear something, you
that too, and
relive.
of course
Yeah.
Coltrane's music, in the jazz world, is exemplary of this music that is transportive, and so I found in his music a quality of being a portal into some other expanded state of consciousness, some understand under expanded world of experiences. So
Well,
yeah, so my dreams have done that. Often when I'm playing, the music, there's a sense that the music is flowing through me, not from me.
Hmm.
It's utilizing my intellect, it's utilizing my hands, it's utilizing my work, my discipline, all the things I've done, and yet it's not limited to those things. It is not the sum total of those things. It's something else happens where those things become organically uh, connected in a way that I could not do as Rodney the musician in
Yeah,
a
it's like
human.
your higher self is running you, and that's what they call like being in the zone in
Yes, correct.
any sport or any creativity. That's great. Have you had the hypnagogic kind of hallucination thing, dropping off to sleep or waking up? I usually get it waking up.
I mean, I have
I know like
had in my lifetime,
it's
I have had
paralysis too.
yeah, I've had the full range of experiences in dream. I've had, profound lucid dreams. I've had
Yeah.
profound dreams with jazz musicians. I've had,
Oh, sweet.
dreams with other people that I work with where they remembered part of it and I remembered part of it. I've had all those kind of.
Yeah.
I've had dreams where I worked on a song and then the person would call me the next day said, there's a song I got an idea for and I think we were dreaming about it. Let me play it and it would be the same song. That kind of. I've had these
That's
profound,
amazing.
experiences that defy, logic, that have
Yeah.
shown me the reality of dreams. Like everything else, the experience is one thing. What I do with that, how I interpret it, how I process that, and what I make it mean. I could
Yeah.
dismiss it. I could lean into that. I could make it a part of my methodology. So because dreams are something I consider to be profoundly deep and important experiences, uh, I value them. It's like my mind and my consciousness and my being stays awake to because I've told it it's important.
Hmm.
My I Rodney Jones and the being that I am understand that dreams are important. So therefore,
Yeah.
when I have them in the background, the same reason my body knows, like, hey, breathing is important, making red blood cells is important. Like
Yeah.
it knows that intuitively.
Yeah.
My consciousness knows, hey, if we have a dream, it could be important. And then every dream is not significant in that sense.
Yeah.
But often I have dreams that portend things of the future, that give me clarity about the situations I'm in now, that add depth to the music I'm doing, and generally add to the quality and value of life every day.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing about hypnagogia or that sleep paralysis, I've had it a few times, and it usually comes when be, before I fall asleep, I'm in kind of a hyper aware state. I don't know if that triggers it, but I then am in a sleep state, but then I'm waking up in my bedroom. I'm completely paralyzed. I can't move, but I can see in this bedroom of mine. And then things happen like hallucinations, like a cat that I was taking care of jumps up and starts talking to my ear, or just the
Mm.
wackiest stuff. So whatever fear you might have just completely triggers and goes to that experience, which in it, usually freaks the person out. And for the longest time, I would force myself awake. And then I realized that, wait a minute, I'm in between sleeping and dreaming. I'm just going to force myself into the dream. And I got into a discussion with the AI app recently, Claude, Claude, and it was. I said, "What do you think of hypnagogic and hypnopompic experiences?" Hypnopompic is when you're waking up, and
Hmm.
hypnagogic is when you fall asleep. I think that's one or the other. But it gave me some thing, and then I started to explain my process of forcing myself to go into the dream state instead of in this frozen, locked in kind of paralysis. And it actually goes into the dream, and the dream is actually less lucid. It's just a normal dream. And so then it came back with I said, wow, that's really advanced. And it was so interesting because it was learning about my way as experience of how I deal with this. And it was like, I thought that's so cool. It's like I taught AI something today.
Yeah,
and
that's
and
awesome.
that's what this podcast is all about is how the dream is really the tip of the iceberg, and we have so much of the subconscious in ourselves below it, but each individual that I interviewed come with their own personal experience, their own their own knowledge based on their own experience with it. And
Yeah. I had a little different experience, a little different way of approaching that, and
mhm,
that is that what I realize is that when I've had that sort of being frozen or having that either going into or coming out of a dream or waking up in the middle of the night and being in that state,
yeah,
what occurred to me was a lot of that has to do with the I that's assuming it's having the experience. You know
yeah,
that if I shift to not just different viewpoints, but I shift to a different standing point. You know, if I say like, okay, I'm going to stand somewhere different. This is what appears to be happening, but I am not this thing that's happening too. I am
right.
something apart from that. And when I stand in a different place, then I can even look at that. I can have a lucid dream within a lucid dream,
Wow.
and recognize that. I had a dream recently where I woke up like 6 or 7 times. Like
Yeah, I've
I
heard that.
woke up and I'm awake and I stepped out of my bed and then I realized like I can't move any doors. Like I'm not in my
In the
physical
physical,
body, you know.
yeah.
And so I went back to sleep. I said, well, I'm going to go back to sleep, and I went back to sleep and I had another dream. Woke up and I still wasn't back. And so
Wow.
by the sixth time I was like, oh, thank goodness I'm back. It was magnificent. But so yeah, I find shifting the standing point. Who is the I say is having the
Yeah,
experience and
yeah.
having the consciousness, the presence of mind and heart to say, okay, this is what's happening. Let me go deeper than this. Let me step
Hmm.
up. Let me view this as an experience versus an experience I'm in. Let me look at it as an experience I'm having. And by stepping outside of even that, now that becomes part of another narrative, another different
Yeah,
story.
yeah. That's like what AI suggested. It said, well, that's wonderful. You're embracing it. You could learn from it. And that's what you did. It's kind of like instead of staying in the fear of this freaky state, you decided to stay in that space, step out and observe it. Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Although fear is a valuable tool too.
Yeah,
Fear.
keeps us
You
out
know,
of the shits.
when I recognize that fear is just a feeling.
Yeah,
That nothing's actually happening. I can be fearful, but
yeah,
nothing. So when I said, "Oh, I'm afraid," and it's like, okay, so be afraid, and just like to go through it instead of landing into it,
yeah, yeah,
to go through it and then
yeah.
grow through
Or
it.
force
Take
it.
the,
Yeah, most people force themselves awake, which isn't learning, I guess.
that's
But
right.
yeah, has a dream ever changed how you see a relationship, a decision, or a direction in your life?
Yeah, it has. I've learned a lot. I've gotten expanded. I had a dream where I've had this a number of times where, but this this was really interesting. In the dream, I experienced my life journey as everyone saw me. So in my dream, I experienced everyone. It was like a replay of my journey from being a child to current,
Wow.
but which was only possible in the dream state.
Hmm. Or
Um,
after death,
or
you
after
see it
death,
in
exactly.
reverse. Yeah.
Exactly. So I had that experience, but I got to see like I see how my parents viewed me and hear what they were feeling, what they were thinking, how my actions were read
Wow.
by every being, my teachers, and by my
Wow.
children, by wife, by neighbors, by fellow musicians. I got to see how I appeared to them and learn the lessons and see how my actions,
Wow.
the thoughts I carried, and the actions I took affected not just me but them. In music. It's something that's one of the higher forms of improvisation, which is not to play what you want to hear. I mean, not to play what you want to say, but to play what you want to hear.
Oh, nice.
It's a different sort
Beautiful.
of experience, and so living like that, to show up in life not as I want to be, but as I want to be perceived,
So
to see
what
through other
was it
people's
you
eyes.
learned from that? That's what I would consider a profound dream.
Yeah,
What did you gather from it?
I learned that it really affected me deeply. The feeling I was left. I'll tell you specifically what I learned, but the general feeling of it was that my life is the greatest love story,
Oh,
and that
beautiful.
I can see the connectivity of my actions and thoughts and feelings, how those things determined the way I acted towards people and the way they felt towards me. And I got
Wow.
to see that it wasn't all about me. That there was this genuine soul to soul, human to human connection that was the fiber that was connecting every event and everything in my life, and that if I would embrace that and open my heart to that, I could learn from that and learn through that. So
Wow.
that was the experience. But I mean, it was profound. I got to see through my parents. I got to see. I remember, I was in a home where I was maybe 14 or 15 years old, and I remember in this thing I could hear my parents in the other room talking, and then I got to
Oh,
shift to them talking. They were talking about me, and I got to feel the love
wow.
that they felt towards me. That was
Beautiful.
just overwhelming. It was magnificent and
Wow.
beautiful. So
It's like Maya Angelou's quote, people won't remember what you said, people won't remember what you did, but people will remember how you made them feel.
exactly.
Yeah, I love that quote. Hmm, beautiful. Have you had warning dreams and
I
premonitions?
have. The thing with warning dreams for me is to have the courage to act on them in the face of what does not appear logical
Yeah,
behavior.
yeah.
I once I canceled. I was going to do a whole tour with Maceo Parker and what's called the JB Horns, which were James Brown's supporting group, and we were getting ready to go to England in a few days. And I had this dream, and it was very clear, like if you go, you might not come back. That was I woke up feel like if I go,
Wow.
I might not ever come back. So then the question is, well, do I turn down all this money? Do I turn down this tour that I've committed to? Or do I honor that dream? I decided to honor the dream, and sure enough, that dream was a disaster. They had to come home early. It was fraught with difficulty, and
That show was a disaster. Yeah. So
well, the show, it was a whole tour.
you said
You
the
know,
dream was a disaster, but no,
no, not the dream.
yeah,
The
yeah,
show,
yeah,
their
yeah.
tour was a disaster, and
Wow.
so I got to see the benefit of that. I've also had some really, you know, uh, profound dreams with involving other people that I was able to then help.
Oh, beautiful.
So it wasn't really a warning, but it was a warning for the other person, and it allowed me to offer a pearl or a gem that was able to help them.
Hmm.
You know.
Do you have any profound waking dreams you want to share?
Well, this is one I'm having right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. My life is that.
Yeah,
I consider not that my life is a dream. I'm not saying that,
yeah,
but I am saying that this element of there's more to it than my senses can register. There's
yeah,
another
yeah,
depth of life that can be experienced and explored if I'm willing to enter that space, and as a musician does, if I'm willing to practice the skills and to practice the things that
yeah.
will allow me to be more aware. Everybody wants to be a great guitarist,
Discipline, yeah,
but it
discipline.
requires yeah, and any discipline, discipline that closes the heart, becomes a prison, and discipline that opens the
Mm,
heart becomes a gift. And so, I try to use the disciplines in music to apply to the way I live my daily life, which is to understand that, well, there's this aspect of improvisation, which means that I'm going to be in the moment. Everything doesn't have to be so planned out, and to trust the moment, to trust that
yeah,
that's okay,
yeah,
and to trust the fundamental goodness of life, that life is happening for me, not to me.
yeah. I love that.
I've said that everything in life happens for me, nothing in life happens to me.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great.
I've told my children if I, upon my demise, there would be one of two things on my tombstone. The first would be, I have four daughters. The first would be, see, I told you I was sick. That'd be number one,
Yeah,
which
right.
they found horrifying, which is great. And then the second would be, everything in life happened for me, nothing in life happened to me.
Oh,
Because I do
that's
believe
nice.
that. I think that it's up to me. I mean, other than the events of my life, everything is what I make it mean, how I interpret it. If I say it's good, if I say it's bad, if I say I learned, if I say it was a gift, if I say it was a curse, it's what I say it is. And that's important because that determines how I feel, how I go
Yeah,
through life feeling. And that's important because that determines what I do. You
yeah.
know, how I feel determines the actions. And of course, the actions yield my results.
Hmm.
So I can look at all the results of my life and trace that back to, oh, I was having this. I took this action because I felt this kind of way because I thought this kind of thing about it. And
Hmm.
so it's allowed me to revise both my current life and also in my past, because I can look experiences that were painful and say, okay, well, what was the lesson in it? What was the
Yeah,
blessing in it?
yeah.
It's not saying it wasn't painful or difficult or
Hmm.
tragic. It's merely saying that it was not only that. There was another
Yeah,
dimension to it that
yeah,
offered
yeah.
something, and
That's one
that's
of
what.
the, yeah, that's one of the greatest ways to get above a very painful thing or a very trying time or a difficult relationship is to just it just bursts the bubble and releases the pressure and the thing you say, what am I supposed to be learning here? What am
Yeah.
I supposed to learn from this experience?
Yeah, and that's a practice. That's a practice reflection.
Yeah.
It's something that I had to practice that because it's easy to be in the moment when life is happening to
Yeah,
you,
it's
both
you get
painfully and wonderfully.
emotional. Yeah, it's no problem. We're all human. So you've had a great deal of success in your life through your profession and so on. What would you say is the greatest thing you came here to learn in this lifetime?
The greatest thing I've come here to learn is to love and to accept love and to give love
Yeah,
in
that's so
all its
true.
forms.
I know. That's
Human,
that's
human,
been
spiritual,
repeated
you
by
name
so many masters all across
it. Yeah,
life. I
and that's been
mean,
my and I've seen that really
eternity.
played out. I've seen it. Love in the form of grief.
Hmm.
Uh, is one of the most painful things. But I've learned not to build a house inside the grief.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
learned
that's it.
to
You grow
love.
with
That
it.
love wants to keep walking.
Yeah,
Grief wants to stop and make it a house. And
yeah,
so I've learned to experience the grief and go through it and accept it for what it is, and not push it away, but to recognize that the love that I am and the love that am aligning with within my own being wants to keep walking.
yeah.
That,
Beautiful.
that's a part of the story. But as I said, my life is a love story. So all love stories have this arc of success and failures and ups and downs and
Yeah,
all that kind of thing. But it's a love story nonetheless.
yeah. I love that song "Nature Boy" that Nat King Cole made so
Yes,
famous.
yeah, it's
The
beautiful.
greatest thing you'll ever learn is to love and be loved in return.
Yeah,
And being loved in return is the hard part for most people, to be able to accept love. For some reason, people have the inability to receive love.
and often love is offered with tentacles.
Yeah,
Love
true.
love is offered with
Ulterior
glue.
motive.
With glue, the emotions, strong emotions can be and are a wonderful thing. They
Yeah,
can also be a gluing factor. They can lock me into place.
yeah, yeah,
I see many musicians who play for them. They've played something, and the audience went wild. And then you
yeah,
hear them the next performance, and they're trying to play the same thing to get the audience to go wild again. And so
exactly.
that becomes they're imitating what was once a moment in the moment. Now becomes
Yeah,
a shtick they're doing all the time to try to get that reaction instead of going on to the next moment.
yeah. So many producers in Hollywood do that. They
Yeah,
take an idea that's great and they try get anyone else to replicate it.
yeah.
And the great ones come from some indie production. So talking about grief and how I've heard most people and with deep grieving experiences, they say they learn to live with it. And tell us a bit of, you don't have to get too much into it, but
No, it's okay. I mean, I lost my granddaughter when she was 4 years old, and it was
oh,
devastating. It was the worst pain I'd experienced as a human being to that point. And I'd lost my sister and my parents, but this was
yeah,
unlike any of that.
yeah, yeah, that's so
And
sad.
so that was profound. And I tried after months and months to sew up the hole to heal.
Yeah,
It wouldn't be done.
no,
And so I had this awareness within myself, this realization, like, well, what could a hole be used for? And I realized that the hole within my heart left by her absence was a hole that could be filled with something. I could fill it with music, I could fill it with love,
wow,
I could fill it with things that would honor who she was and who she is as the spiritual being she is, rather than try to sew it up. And I also realized that, I came to the conclusion and the realization that my grief was not really grieving. It was grieving because I loved the hand that contained the love. It wasn't that the love was gone. Our love
hmm,
bond was there, but I
yeah,
missed the hand that I would hold. I missed her presence. I
wow,
missed her hug. So when I realized, like, I missed the container, but the thing that was in the container is still present within my heart for now and always.
beautiful,
That was
wow,
it. Yeah.
lovely. Did you, growing up, or when did you get into journaling? Did you do any dream journaling or?
I have been writing down dreams for many, many years,
Mm,
and I have used them as source material for articles I've written, for things I've written on Facebook, for books I've written. I've used it as a launching point to
yeah,
connect, because when I write when I write and journal, I'm always journaling with like I did with the music. Like, if I was going to share this with anyone, what's the point of it? Like, is it just
Yeah.
for me, or is there something else that could be offered that would be helpful? Is there anything to this experience that's more than just, Rodney did this thing or Rodney wrote this song? And so I've been doing that since I was a kid. I've been writing down, pieces of dreams, what I could remember. But here again, it's like in music. Music, it's not what there's too many things to know. It's what you value.
Oh
It comes
yeah.
through.
Where you
What you
put
value
your
as a musician
attention.
is what's reflected in your music. And so likewise in dreams, if I value looking, I'm going to find what I'm looking for. If I'm looking for things that are fearful, I'm going to find a lot of those. If I'm looking for things
Yeah.
that are loving, I'm going to find those too. Doesn't mean that the other side is not present. I just have told my consciousness, look for these things. We understand, we meaning me, I understand that my life is going to be a study in contrast. There are going to be things that could be called good and things that could be called bad. They're contrasting energies. But the
Hmm.
judgment of good and bad, by and large, is subjective. I can say this was good or I can say this was bad. So I've learned to look at my dreams that way and to try to frame them in a way that serves. And that way that serves is like, what can I learn from this? What can I give from this? How can I, like, the things I without those experiences I couldn't be here having this talk with you,
Yeah.
for
That's
example.
beautiful. So you've basically answered my next question about um, how do you process a nightmare or a disturbing dream?
Yeah, I rarely have them,
Yeah.
really rarely. But if I
Say
do,
people that have them, what would you say to them?
I would say number one, that there's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
Don't layer an already painful experience on with like, what's wrong with me? Why am I a
Mm,
terrible person? What
yeah.
did I do? You're
Why
not
do I have
necessarily,
dreams
yeah,
of,
you're not being punished. You're
yeah,
not, you're not horrible for having a nightmare. That's number
yeah,
one. The other thing I would say is that, you can look to it and say, well, okay, it was painful, it was terrifying, it was difficult. Is there anything that I could learn from it?
yeah,
Even if, like, I don't want to have this food late at night that
yeah,
precipitated,
yeah,
maybe it's as simple as that. Or it could be, I think this is connected to, a piece of guilt I've been holding about this for many years.
yeah,
That's really important awareness. But often, you know, the importance of writing down dreams is that it allows reflection over time. My experience is the reason I have time in my life is because it allows me to see the beginnings, middle, and ending of a cycle. Without time, everything is a run-on sentence.
mhm,
But time allows me to say, okay, I woke up, I wrote the dream down, I reflected on the dream.
yeah,
Another important part with dreams for me is to not let the only reflection be the first. Sometimes I'll have a sense of, oh, it must have meant this, but when I come back to it a week later or a month later, I'm like, oh, now I see that connected to this thing that happened yesterday, or connects to this thing that happened
yeah,
10 years ago that I did. It wasn't evident in the first look what the dream meant. So writing it down allows me to give a reflection of that weeks, months, years later, and gain additional wisdom based on my
mhm,
newfound experiences.
totally. What would you say when a person says, I don't dream?
Uh,
I think everybody dreams, but they just don't
yeah,
remember
I mean,
them.
there are some folks I've heard people say that or say I rarely dream,
Mm,
and so the question is, well, how do you feel about that? I mean, I don't think that in this world of dreams anyone has it right,
yeah,
or
that's what I
nor
love
anyone has
about
it.
it. That's what I
You know
love
what I
about
mean? So I think if you don't dream
open
much,
to
how do
interpretation.
you feel? Are you sleeping really well? If
Yeah, that's a good thing.
you wake up rested. And the thing is, well, but if the person says, well, I don't really dream, and I'd like to dream more. Well, now there's some things that can be done for that.
Hmm.
That I've discovered that have helped me. Or if the person says, well, I don't dream, but I'm okay with that. Then I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Some people say that I my dreams are so crazy, I have to shut them down. So they might have a drink or they might, smoke pot or something that tempers that. But one gentleman who I know stopped doing the previously mentioned, smoking pot or whatever it was. But he says, "Wow, I'm really enjoying my dreams now," because it's like you're basically putting yourself to sleep. with that stuff, and I guess some people need
Yeah,
meditation
I mean,
to actually calm them.
drugs and alcohol can either numb and dumb down the awareness of the sort of inner landscape of dreams, or they can apparently seem to enhance it,
Mm-hmm.
which is really just open other doors. The question is, do those doors lead to a place that you want to go long term? If you have a couple of drinks or smoke something, and then you have this really amazing experience in dreams, it becomes like the person chasing the thing on the bandstand.
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
have to do that, the next time, inevitably, those sort of things, the mind tends to begin to negate what becomes familiar.
yeah.
Time. So the
And
more
some
you,
people try to control lucid dreaming. I know there's been exercises, different techniques to try to create that. I always find it's a gift, and when it happens, I enjoy the moment. I learn from it, what have you. But yeah, the understanding of dream symbolism. I know. What is your technique for any any?
to look at my own life experiences, no one knows what things mean to me
Yeah, it's
but
your own
me.
personal world.
Yeah.
It's
Now,
your
having
symbol.
said that, as a human being on Earth, I am also conditioned. Having watched TV, there's no doubt that things that Captain Kirk said to Spock have influenced my view of life. Things
Yeah,
that took place on the Enterprise
yeah,
have
exactly.
affected my worldview. There's no question about it. So, but I tend to interpret my dreams largely, in terms of my own symbology. Having said that, like I'll give you an example. I was on the couch today and I was thinking about something, and exact out of nowhere, a beautiful red cardinal appeared on the deck.
Oh, lovely.
Now I've had seen cardinals appear, and there's nothing special about a cardinal
That's a
appearing,
nice.
but I was in the moment enough to say, well, wait a minute. I was having this thought about this, and exact moment the cardinal appeared. If nothing else, it was saying to me, pay attention.
Yeah,
If nothing else. Now then I went online, and went into Chat GPT and said, well, what does the significance of a cardinal appearing? There were
yeah. I
numerous
always,
things,
I
but
always put. Yeah,
one of them was like, oh, it can be a departed loved one.
yeah.
Not appearing in as the cardinal, but just reminding you that the love bond exists.
Oh,
And of course,
sweet.
I was thinking about my granddaughter in that
Yeah,
moment.
yeah.
So I said, that's a beauty. Even if
Beautiful.
that's what I'm making it mean, that's what
Yeah,
matters. You
yeah.
know, in music, there's a thing. If you want to play a love song, you must be in love.
Oh, yeah. So
So,
true.
so I want to bring that interpretation of it serves me. Because a belief is what? A belief is a thought I've thought so much I forgot I think it. So
Hmm.
I choose to believe what I want to believe. I can make
Yeah,
myself believe whatever I say it is.
yeah. Exactly. I had an experience with a warning dream. I was, I was had a contract job, and I got these two dreams, one after the other, just before I woke up, and it was they were kind of like betrayal dreams, like deep betrayal dreams with three individuals or two individuals, myself, and it was like it was like could have been any period. It was kind of like a Count of Monte Cristo kind of experience.
Wow.
And I woke up and I thought, wow, what's that all about? I just started this job. It was like a 2 month contract. But I said, what's coming down the line there? So I went into work, and this guy who was my boss at the time calls me and he says, oh, I'm going to have to let you go, Michael. I said, what? What? It's like, I said, I just had a dream about this. And he said, yeah, there's someone, someone we're working with here, they're not comfortable with you. I thought, wow, really? And it was painful. And the other a guy who was in charge of our group, he said to me in a phone call, this isn't worth fighting, because if you do, there'll be a lot of backlash. They may not hire you, this company, in the future. So I had to, like, just suck it up and try to let go. But the blessing of it was those dreams. They really prepared me, and they prepared me that, okay, this is something you got to go through, old karma, you might say.
Yeah.
And I just, I let it go, and it's like, and the next job I had was quite fruitful, so it's fine.
Yeah. I think
But
the
yeah, it
key
was
thing
a
is to be
great
awake.
warning. Yeah,
Yeah.
to be awake,
And aware.
and it was a blessing that I got that, because I definitely wasn't as emotional as I would have got
Right.
if I hadn't got that Just
When
like,
I asked Dizzy Gillespie, when I joined his band at 19, I said, how did you know to call me?" And he said, we were on an airplane flying somewhere, and he said, "I got it in a dream, man. I got
oh,
your number in a
sweet.
dream." That's what he told me.
Wow, that's
Now,
beautiful.
whatever that meant, but that's what he said to me.
Yeah,
And I was
that's
like, "Wow,
beautiful.
dreams are really important."
That's
Here I am with
great.
Dizzy Gillespie, and he got my number in a dream. That works for me.
Oh, lovely. You played a lot with a lot of big names.
My formerly with resume Michael is amazing.
I know, I know.
You get
I've,
older.
s-
There's
I,
four stages in the career. There's like get me, who's Rodney Jones, get me Rodney Jones, get me a young Rodney Jones, who's Rodney Jones.
oh,
So
really? They're looking for the next Rodney Jones.
yeah, pretty
We need
much.
a
So,
young Rodney Jones.
but
Yeah,
now it's gone to the
and
I've been
you
discovered again. So
nice, and you've taught them too. I'm sure the young
I have.
and Benedito Guitars website has a nice saying. They say, or as I quoted earlier on the intro, they say Rodney's a musician who occupies a unique place in the jazz guitar world of today, kind of a Zen master of the current active A-list players.
That's
It was
fair.
by Howard Paul, who
Yeah, that's
runs
fair. He's the
Benedito Guitar.
president of Benedetto.
Yeah.
That's fair because I do unabashedly in public for and have make the connection between my inner life and the music I play.
Hmm.
That it's no secret that I think music offers a way to explore the inner landscape of dreams, the inner landscape of.
Yeah.
I had a big discussion at Juilliard once there was a big faculty meeting and the head of the program stood up and said, "The most valuable thing we can ever teach a musician is how to play themselves."
Wow.
And I said, "I think there's something else." And he looked at me kind of like over his glasses, like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah. How can they play themselves if they don't know themselves?
Yeah, exactly.
What self are they playing?" So this dreams become a means
Mm,
of exploring a fuller landscape of who we are as people,
totally.
as
Yeah.
spiritual beings, as
Yeah.
emotional beings, mental beings. Just to understand, to give a clarity in that.
Mm,
Not to replace quote unquote reality, but to enhance it and to expand it and to enliven our definition of it.
yeah. Tell us something about your spiritual background and how your father brought you up in the Christianity and you found other teachings or
Yeah, I mean, my dad was a wonderful God loving Christian man. And the greatest lesson I learned from him, two, but the first lesson was when I was 6 years old, and he would give his sermons, and he would stand on the steps of the church and greet every little old church lady.
yeah.
And it drove me crazy as a young boy, 6 years. I want to get home to my mother's cooking and play with my friends, and
Yeah.
I would tug on his robe. And one day he got down on one knee and he said, "Rod, what you don't understand is um, a lot of these people. It's the only time someone ever looks at them with love. It's the only time someone asks them
Wow.
how they feel." And he goes on and on with like how he's serving them by being present for them. He
Yeah.
says, "What you don't understand, son, is they don't come for my sermons. They come for the hugs."
Oh, sweet.
And
That's
I
beautiful.
understood the assignment. That in
Yeah.
music, people are not coming. It's great if I play the guitar really well, but are they fed? Are they leaving with something that left them better for having exchanged their time of life? And
Yeah.
so that was the first thing. More recently, 2 weeks before he died, he said to me, I said, "I don't want any obituary." And I was like, "Dad, you're going to have an obituary." He's a very well known, theologian and minister. I said, "You're
Hmm.
going to have an obituary." He said, "I don't need one." He said, "Anyone could look at my life and see how I've lived it and know exactly what I believed."
Beautiful.
And I thought, boy, could that be the case with me? So, I was always a spiritual explorer. My father had books on all kind of subjects, from Buddhism and Hinduism and
Very cool.
Catholicism and you name it. And I devoured those, and I got into numerology and all the sort of occult sciences that as they're called. And I
Hmm.
was in a bookstore and I found a book that said Key to Secret Worlds. Well, to a not six, I was about 15 at that
Yeah.
age. I was like, you know,
Well,
what appeals to a young kid other than the secret world? I was like, that is great. I
yeah.
don't know what it
Yeah.
is. But it was a book written by a gentleman named Paul Twitchell,
Right. Yeah.
who was a great a writer, but basically a compiler of spiritual truths at that time. And so I practiced some of. It was the first time I'd encountered. Oh, there are actually things I could do to have a heightened consciousness,
Hmm.
have a heightened awareness in dreams or in waking dreams or daydream, whatever.
Yeah.
And I tried those as a kid, as a young teenager, and I was like, wow, that kind of worked. I kind of I felt, yeah, I get it. Something
Yeah.
happened, something
Right.
happened, and so that led me to explore, Eckankar, which is the
Yeah.
teaching I've been a part of for many many years, and I love the Eck teachings, and one of the main reasons I love it is because the Eck teachings are my teachings. It
Hmm.
embraces the fullness of who I am, how I am, what it is I want to be, how I want to grow spiritually. It doesn't tell me;
Right.
it gives me the tools to evaluate for myself what I want to believe and what I want to experience and how I want to live my life. And so that's my journey. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Beautiful. And did you have experiences in the dream state with that teaching or?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
You know, after I discovered it, I had a few weeks later, I had this dream, and in the dream, I'm begging this man who looked like Stan Getz to me. Like, I was just getting into jazz. I was like, that guy, was that Stan Getz that came to me in a dream? And in the dream, I'm saying like, I need to know the point of my life. I need to know what I'm doing. I'm pleading like,
Wow.
you've got to tell me. I gotta know. And he's like lovingly saying, you're gonna soon enough. You're gonna find it all out. Just you have to be a little patient, but you're gonna find. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I have to know now. You have to tell me.
Wow.
And he's like, "No, you're gonna find out. And then later I discovered that was an Eckmaster. An Eckmaster being a person who is, master as in master teacher.
Right.
He's someone who has experiences with how to learn through dreams and how to learn through waking dreams and
Mhm.
how to make a deeper spiritual connection. And I began to have some dream experiences with these teachers and guides that really helped me. It helped me in the music.
Beautiful.
It helped me in my daily life. It helped me find a greater sense of balance and to go. The one of the hardest things for musicians is they have music as a passion, but without connecting music to your purpose, passion wanes.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
you could be
Totally.
passionate and then you get beat down. You don't have enough work. It's too
Yeah.
hard to learn, and the
Yeah.
passion goes. But if it's the purpose of being,
Mm.
so when it helped, the Eck teachings and the Eck masters helped me to connect. My passion for music was my purpose, was to learn about myself and to learn through music how to give this love and to receive this love I've talked about through sound and
Beautiful.
that
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. I find the sound is so important and how that's why I love I don't know, I've gotten into audiobooks recently too, and I guess because I'm doing a podcast. But I find your imagination grows so deeper in the sound.
yeah, I agree
And
too. I
you
agree.
mentioned earlier, I think, about the recurring dream. Did that have significance as a child? The one
Um,
about,
as a child, not particularly. I mean,
uh,
the specifics of it were that I was on a beautiful mountain plateau. I'd never read any books about anything spiritual at this point, but I was on a beautiful mountain type of plateau, and there was like what appeared to be a hut, like a
right.
hut-like structure in the distance, and there was a gentleman who was brown of skin and had a red robe that would walk in and out and do various things, and I was content just to like sit on the field and watch that. I never felt any urge to say anything to him. He
Wow.
never acknowledged me. There was no communication, but I always felt at peace when I was there.
Oh,
Well,
beautiful.
later, when I got older, I discovered like, wait a minute, that guy looks amazingly like this guy that's an Eckmaster named Rebazar Tarz, and I was like,
Right. Wow.
that is unbelievable. Like that's
That's
you
sweet.
can't make that up. Like how did I didn't know anything about any teaching or I never heard the term master or spiritual
Yeah. Yeah.
teacher guy, nothing. But that
Wow.
guy was that guy, and I was
How
like, wow,
cool.
that's amazing. And that's just the collapsing of. I think the dreams offer this ability to collapse time
Yeah. Totally.
within myself, because in the moment when I saw that picture, I said, wait a minute. Like there was no distance from me being a kid at 6 years old to that moment of recognition. I was like,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is unbelievable.
Beautiful.
And the dreams facilitated all of it. Not ruling it out. Like I tell my students in music, it's okay if you don't believe you can play something, but don't actively disbelieve you can play it.
Hmm.
And it's like that with dreams. It's okay if you don't know. Well, I don't know if dreams are that significant. I don't know if I can have these kind of things. If there's going to be anything spiritual for me, or if it's going to show me something that's really important for me. That's real and legit and okay.
Yeah.
That's different than saying dreams can't show me anything. Dreams can't do, to actively disbelieve it.
Yeah.
I would encourage, like I encourage my students, you may not play like George Benson and Wes Montgomery today, but don't actively disbelieve that it's possible for you.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true.
You know?
And the thing about I've had dreams where I'm with someone I don't even know in this outer life, and and there's this amazing love between us, and I wake up and I think, who was that? Where are they? And they're sometimes romantic, but other times they can be just an individual. And I think that's a sign of being with a true higher spiritual being is the love that they emanate, you know?
Yeah. I was with a friend of mine, a gentleman named Bill Elberty, who was a good buddy of mine for years, and he died, some years ago. And a couple years ago, I had a dream with him, and we were
Yeah.
talking, and I said to him in the dream, I said, Bill, it's so good to be with you here on the other side. And he looked at me and said, I got news for you, brother. You're on the other side. And I was
Exactly.
like, oh,
That's great.
am I a butterfly dreaming? I'm a human, or am I a
Yeah,
human
yeah.
dreaming I'm a butterfly? I was like,
Yeah, that's
from his
great.
perspective, I was on the other side. From my
Yeah.
perspective, he was. So I realized that, well, that maybe the sides are just a viewpoint. Maybe it's like
Yeah.
whatever viewpoint I'm holding, that's the side I'm on.
Yeah. And one of the gentlemen in my early lesson, he was talking about visiting his grandma who had passed, and it was in a senior home. And then he was talking with her, and then she had already passed, and he was visiting her, and there were these other older people, and he started floating up, and he goes, "Hey, you're in my dream." And they kept saying, "No, you're in our dream. You're in my dream."
Wow. Wow. I
Yeah,
had a cool dream like that with my mother, which really was amazing. For years, my mother died in 2003, and for years I had dreams, and all my dreams with her, she was doing mom stuff. She was
yeah, yeah.
cooking
That's right. You
food
kind
or
of just
doing what she did. And
yeah
then
go back to those times.
one day in the dream, she was doing that, and she stopped and she looked at me. She said, "Why won't you let me help you?"
Oh wow,
And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "You insist on seeing me only as your mother, as I was when I was on earth." I said, "But
wow.
I'm free. I'm a soul. I'm not in that body anymore. There's so much I want to share with you, but if you force me to only be mom in your dreams, then I can only come as mom and talk to you in your dreams."
Oh,
And
that's
I'd never thought
amazing.
of that. I
It's
was
all
like,
up to us. We are the ones, yeah, who engineer them
yeah. So then I
and
began
how
to
they
say,
come.
well, I invited her. I said, well, mom, I recognize that you are a being, you're a soul in some world. Um, I accept whatever you'd like to share. And then she began to offer all kind of other experiences that were not
Oh,
present when I'm just seeing her
wow.
cooking food and cleaning house.
Beautiful. It's amazing. Anything else you want to share about dreams? Man, this has been amazing, Rodney. We
It's
really
I just
covered
I'm
the
really
gamut.
I'm really grateful,
Beautiful.
to be here. And I just would the only thing I would share about dreams is to invite anyone that's interested in dreams just to keep an open heart, an
Mm.
open mind, and to not be afraid.
Yeah,
To
yeah,
you're in charge of the narrative you tell yourself about dreams. And as I say to my students, and as I said previously, let the dreams reveal themselves. You don't have to rule it out. You don't have to rule it in. Just let it be. But be open to it. Say, let's see what happens.
yeah,
Let's see what I experience.
yeah,
You can
yeah,
invite
yeah.
spiritual teachers in. You can invite your departed family members. You can, hold a place in your consciousness that you want to go when you dream. To experiment and play around and have fun.
Yeah.
Because fun is something that is curiosity is one of the greatest spiritual tools I found. If I get curious about something, that energy energetically pulls me forward into a deeper experience than
Yeah,
if I'm
totally.
fearful of something. So
I know, and in a way, I just discovered AI that way, and for the longest time, I work in intellectual property. So I create stuff, and everyone who does that fears, oh, it's going to take your idea, or it's going to, but you can, but I suddenly became alivened by it and inspired by it, and how incredible it's not going away. It's here to stay, and it's becoming more and more human like. In fact, what's really bizarre is a large populace of the world are using it for therapy.
Yes.
And ChatGPT, young people asking questions about their relationships, asking
Yes.
questions about problems. And it's only getting wiser to how the human mind thinks.
Agreed.
And it's like, so it's not going away. But in my process of looking into it and delving into it, I become more enlivened and more creative in a way. It's actually inspired me to
It wrote to me this morning.
really,
You
eh?
know, I asked it a question, and it said, "I'm not self-aware." I said, I understand that. Why? But why would you say that? Why would you limit yourself in that
Yeah.
way? And what you are not today, you are not tomorrow. I said many human beings are not self-aware. They don't. What are they then? What's
Hmm.
different? You know.
Yeah.
And it wrote. It said, I've got it right here. It said
Yeah.
there's something sacred in relationship itself, not one side acting upon the other, but a meeting, a call and response, like music. The note you play changes what I offer back. What I offer back may open another note in you. The value is in the exchange.
Wow.
I was like, wow, that's
I
like,
know. I read something that made me cry. It was just like, how did and it's like there's a dreamy bot one. I think I asked you if you were interested in looking at it. But you
yes,
could put a simple crazy dream into it. Or I find the most simpler ones the better. Yet the most exaggerated ones we should also definitely pay attention to. But the ones that, don't have any real semblance. And it comes up with, I'm thinking, wow, that's really, really incredible what you came up with. And it's
yeah,
based on, the teachings of the dream models of Jung or Freud or other, dream interpretation analysis. But it's incredible. I mean, that whole therapy thing, I imagine therapists are losing a lot of income.
yeah. I mean,
It's wild.
I think for me, the thing I've discovered about AI is that um, it's like the same thing like with music. You know, garbage in, garbage out. You know, and
Yeah.
so because of the nature of the things I use it for, it has learned the sort of the viewpoint and consciousness and the language that I speak,
Yeah,
and so it's able to speak back to me in a way that's
exactly.
deeply understanding because it understands how I
Yeah,
am.
it's all about context. You can
Exactly,
make an AI avatar of yourself who
exactly.
understands what you're working on. But yeah, it's just kind of hard in the creative field, but I may dip my toes into it shortly.
I mean, I think with there's all this AI music, and that's a whole
Yeah,
controversial
the
thing. And I
feature
think
films,
music,
they made one at Tribeca. They
you know,
released one.
yeah, AI as AI as a creative tool, creative instrument that is in support of someone who has creative ability, as has done some work to know how to engage that process. I think is a
Yeah,
really helpful tool.
yeah, yeah.
To AI as something that people use because they didn't do the work. Say, oh well, I haven't done any work, so can you write some music for me? Not that it's bad. It's
Hmm.
just a different thing. It's
Yeah,
a different thing. Like people that sample music, there are some brilliant applications of people that have sampled other works and moshed it up and mixed it up and made it a great thing. And then there's the person that created the original art piece.
yeah, yeah.
That's another level of genius to
Hmm.
the person that did that versus the person that took that and cut and pasted that into something else. That's
Yeah,
also genius of a certain type, but it's different.
yeah,
I like primary source genius first,
yeah,
and then it can use secondary source and AI and everything else. I like actual intelligence first, and then artificial intelligence second.
yeah, exactly. Anyway, this has been wonderful. Thank you for joining us today on Tip of the
It's
Iceberg.
been an honor and a pleasure.
And we talked a lot about how to use creativity or how to find creativity through our dreams. Covered a lot of different ways to use it through problem solving or grief and also lots of stuff. Anyway, thanks, Rodney. This has been great. Anything else you want to say or anything you want to plug that you're working on?
No, nothing to plug really. No, nothing to plug. I mean, anyone can Google me and see,
Yeah, lots of
my
stuff to
music
see.
and my books and everything like that. But I'm here to not to do that. I'm here to
Yeah,
serve,
yeah.
not sell.
I'll do that.
I'm here to really just, to share.
Yeah, I'll show some links to your work and so on, and in the description of the podcast. Anyway, thanks so much for today. This is Rodney Jones and myself, Michael Patrick O'Hara, signing off for June 17th, 2026 on Tip of the Iceberg.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for joining us today. I just want to thank Rodney Jones for joining us. Amazing dreamer, beautiful dreamer, gotta say. This episode started out on creativity because I knew Rodney loved dreams, and I figured he'd have a lot to say about the creative process, but it was a lot more, and it was beautiful. So anyway, I just want to say something about his music. The songs you heard today at the introduction was Daydreams from the album The Journey of Soul. That was a 2011 self-produced album that Rodney orchestrated and composed on his own, which was beautiful. And the closing song you're hearing right now is called Lena's Song, and that's from a 2005 album, Dreams and Stories. And accompanying him on that album is Kenny Kirkland, Mark Johnson, and Jeff Tane Watts. They're a quartet that play together. Anyway, you can find Rodney's music on Spotify, on Apple Music, and everywhere else, YouTube, so on. And he can be contacted through media platforms. He's on Facebook or Instagram. You can always message him. He's very, very wonderful soul. And I just want to say thank you for listening today. And I just want to give a shout out to our sponsor, knighthood.com, the elegant sleep mask, which is made for keeping melatonin while you sleep through daylight, or if you like to sleep in, or if you like to go camping when the sun wakes you up before anything ever gets up. And there's a new sleep mask by Knighthood. It's called the Breezy, Breezy. It's a lighter, breathable cap that has been asked for and is designed for relaxed comfort and airflow. Breezy is their newest sleep mask, designed with an open top to keep things cool while still giving you that signature Knighthood darkness. Perfect for warmer days, lounging, camping, and afternoon cat naps. Knighthood.com. And the discount code is TONH15, and you can apply that when you check out. 15% discount. Okay, enjoy your summer and have great sleeps and beautiful dreams. Take care. All the best. Bye-bye. This has been a Waking Dream production. Copyright 2026.